Hey, thanks for tuning in to Twang and Bang. This is a Glock G17 9mm. Now, it's not the first pistol to have used polymer in its frame, but it's certainly the one that popularized the idea. But more than a decade before the birth of the G17, polymers were being put to the test as replacements for metals in high-stress applications. This is the Max 2 from Recreatives Industries, and if Glock made an ATV, I think it would look a whole lot like this. It's been in production since 1969, and its polymer frame has been designed to survive in any environmental condition that you can. I want to show you just how this thing is put together, how easy they are to maintain, and what amazing things that they're capable of. And hopefully after you see that, you'll see why I think this is the Glock of ATVs. And that's what's coming up next on Twang and Bang. You ever look in the back of popular mechanics from, say, the 70s or even the 80s? Well, you probably saw an advertisement for an amphibious ATV like this one in there. Long before there were ATVs like we know them today, the backwoods were dominated by amphibious ATVs like this Max. It's got true six-wheel drive that'll get you over snow, mud, rocks, logs, and it's got a boat-like hull that allows it to swim over the top of calm water. And this hull is also its skid plate. The polymer is so tough and flexible that it allows the 700-pound Max to float right over the top of rocks without any kind of damage. In fact, it's really, really hard to find a Max that has ever cracked the hull if it was taken care of. But even if you do, it's a simple matter of welding up the crack with a soldering iron and some plastic filler that you can get from discarded plastic items you might even have in your home. The Max runs on 6 low-pressure tires. You can get these down to half a PSI, and it's not a problem because it also uses beadlock rims. Now, one of the things you might notice is these tires are actually run backwards. They're fine in the mud that way, but it's the only way you're going to get this thing to swim at any kind of speed. The Cockpit simply has just a couple of gauges, a choke, and a shift lever for the transmission. You control it with these two control levers, one for each side of the transmission. Now, though you can't counter-rotate like in a tank, you can lock down one side completely, allowing you to turn in about the width of 2 body widths of the vehicle. This makes this much more maneuverable than any four-wheeler could hope to be. Everything is chain-driven off of the T20 transmission. What this means is that if you can take care of a motorcycle, you can take care of an amphibious ATV. Maintenance mainly consists of adjusting the tension on the chains to keep them tight, changing the fluids in the transmission and the oil in the engine, just like you do for any motorcycle. Of course, you have a lot more chains to take care of, but it's just a matter of time and not skill. There are 3 engines available for the Max 2, the largest of which is this Kohler Command 23 horsepower. The engine's placed in the back for balance. You have 2 people riding up front, maybe a winch and a full tank of gas, and the weight of the engine helps keep the front end out of the water. The air intake is nice and high to also keep it out of the water for water crossings. As big as this looks, and despite the fact you could sit 2 people side by side, it's actually only 3 inches longer than a Polaris Sportsman. It's only 6.5 inches wider. It's actually 50 pounds less than a Sportsman 850 because of the polymer construction. It allows you to haul 600 pounds, 500 pounds if you're going over water. It even has a tow hitch that allows you to tow 1,000 pounds. Now, actually, with a good trailer on flat land, that's a conservative estimate. So this is a real workhorse, and I put this to work almost every weekend on my property. The trailer that I used is the Polar 22 cubic foot model. It's nice and big for hauling logs, gravel, stone, whatever I need to around the property. And the T20 skid steer transmission allows me to do maneuvers to get this trailer anywhere I want to on my tight wooded property. These are things that I just couldn't do with a standard four-wheeler trying to pull this trailer through here. The engine is basically a lawn tractor engine. It's great for just towing heavy things and going at slow speed through these tight maneuvers. This turn right here with the trailer would just not be possible with a four-wheeler. Just couldn't do it. Only a six-wheeler with skid steer could do something like that. Of course, it would be a shame to have a vehicle like this and only use it for work. I like to get out to Blisco Beach ATV Park in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and run through their trails. Of course, it happened that just before I got down there, they seem to have gone through with some heavy equipment and taken out a lot of my favorite mud holes. But I was able to take it through some tight trails to show you how maneuverable it is. But it's also a chance for me to show you how much work it is to drive one of these things over time. This doesn't have power steering. You gotta really use those forearms to work those sticks back and forth. No Dukes of Hazzard here. There's no suspension but the tires. If I were to fly off of that thing, I'd probably break my back. As you can see, really this is not a vehicle built for top speed, but it is something that's just going to keep going and going, just about whatever ends up in its path. Here's a good view of, basically how much you can get bounced around in these and how much you have to work the sticks in order to steer. It's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work at the same time. You can't use body language to move these things around like you can a four-wheeler. So when you get into a mud hole like this is called the 50-50 hole. This is typically what somebody with an ATV is going to have to do. It's highly modified, very expensive tires, and it's got a snorkel. And it's just a battle to stay on top of these things coming through these mud holes. They're more like a water pit than a mud hole. But it's called the 50-50 hole because without the right equipment, you only have about a 50% chance of getting through here. This guy was a really good sport and put his ATV through so I could get him on video. But you can see he's still having a good time and all smiles even though he's covered in mud from his waist down. Look at the body language that he has to use to keep that upright. And now it's my turn. This is basically a boat. I'm going to flow right over top of it, but you got to put it in gently so you didn't get the wake to come up over the top and fill the tub with water. But once I'm in the water, look how nice of a ride it is. It's easiest to control these from sitting up on the top of the back of the bench. Gives your center of gravity, gets your center of gravity up so that you can lean back and forth to help turn in the water. See the paddle action of the mud tires put on backwards. Of course, the enemy to these is peanut butter mud. The nice broad bottom, which is so good for water and getting over rocks and roots, is just this big place for the peanut butter mud to stick. So you have to get your speed up and grind your way through so you don't get stuck. Now it's hard to tell from this camera angle just how sticky that mud is, but you're going to get a view of some other machines coming through so you can see really how tough it is. This guy coming through, he's got $1,000 worth of tires on there to get through with the four-wheel drive ATV. This one actually gets bogged down in the muck. It's a real tough hole, and I was actually able to make it. Of course, you want to talk about maneuverability. Let's just stick it through these two trees just to show you what you can do by pointing this any way you want to with the skid steer transmission. And there's one of my buddies. He got stuck in the same predicament. He can't actually steer his way out of this. so he actually has to lift the back end while his friend hits the throttle. I'd never have to do that with a six-wheeler. Of course, he gets through, and I'm going to put it through another set of trees right here. That's a field goal right there, no problem. These guys were a real big help in making this video. Of course, the best thing about having a side-by-side is you can share the fun like I'm doing with my 8-year-old daughter right here. If you want to learn more about the Max ATV, check out the links I have below. If you like this video, be sure to tell YouTube about it and click the like button. It really helps me out. Also, be sure to subscribe to catch all my other videos on bows, on guns, and other cool stuff like this ATV. I really appreciate you watching Twang and Bang, and I hope to see you next time.